Hello there, author J.E. Mueller here with another review. It's been a little bit since I've done one. Life gets busy, but here we go. I have another fun one that I read because of the indie sci-fi fantasy author battle, and this one is The Shadows of Creation. So this was a really interesting book. It's kind of hard to initially describe without giving away too much information. So, Shadows of Creation, I'm not entirely sure how the author would describe it, but I consider it low fantasy. While there is magic in it, it's not really used very much, but it is used, so it's kind of cool to see. The biggest magic is mostly lore based. They set it up so that it seems like magic might be used more throughout the series, and it's definitely prevalent in the culture, but not a whole lot of magic. So, anyway, this took me a while to think of exactly how I wanted to review it. I would give this book 3 out of 5 stars. And there's many reasons behind this. While it definitely has some of my favorite aspects of fantasy, I love lore and I love the deepness in which this book went into its own lore. I honestly would not have finished this book unless I had to. It opens very description heavy. You do not start with action. It takes toward the end of the first chapter to even get any sort of action. And as you start to get to know the characters, things start to get a little more interesting. You get involved in the world. You get to see this magic that reminds me a lot of the Last Airbender style bending. And I just love that concept. So I was really excited. And then all of a sudden it just switches to another character. It's like, okay, fine. I actually really do enjoy books that flip between characters a lot. But the way this was done, the transitions were frequently awkward. Not all of them, but frequently. And in the beginning, it was heavily awkward. So some of the first couple of characters you meet, there's nothing interesting about what they're doing or what's going on, and it's just very low-key introduction, like, why do I care about this person? Especially with, I believe you say his name as Bren. His introduction was probably the worst, and he ends up becoming one of the more interesting characters later. So, I'm glad he became more interesting, but yeah, it really needs a little bit more restructuring and reworking. The author is actually really good at weaving together different plots and storylines, more so than several other indie books I've read, so he's definitely talented. Just needs some more restructuring. A developmental editor would definitely be able to help him organize, rekey these points to something a little better. Especially that beginning. I hate starting just in pages and pages of description. It's like, okay, why do I care that they're on top of a huge mountain with a giant staircase? I don't. Why is she there? Show me something exciting going on. So that made it a little difficult. Very lackluster introductions, but it does pick up. The action, the plot, there's a lot at stake for every single character. And I love that every character actually does have something big going on in this world. All of them have something to fight for and to lose. But all of them kind of have the same beginnings. Their parents aren't telling them everything. They all literally have the same introduction when you break it down. The Star's father is not telling her anything. The Prince of the Sun is not telling him anything. It's just like, you're using the same tropes over and over again, and I actually do love that trope, and it was just too overly used. So that was a little disappointing, especially since I do love that one. It's hard to sum this up because especially, I'm going to definitely show that cover again. look at that. It's got such an epic fantasy feel, and the characters have so much going on for them, and the book itself is actually edited. You can tell that the lines are almost completely clean. I only noticed, I think, two things that I noticed were wrong that had to do with tense that kind of pulled me out, but that's not a big deal. It's a pretty big book. It was like 300 something pages, 370 I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but it was a larger book, so finding two mistakes is not a big deal at all. But some of those scenes, this author has a lot of potential. I really am not interested in the rest of the series. The way the first book ended was a terrible cliffhanger. The last line was pretty cool. It kind of tied in the title of everything back together, which I love when authors do that, but it just felt like it stopped instead of pulled you in for a little more to try and get you to read more. And I really do want to see what else this author comes up with, but this book just was not a win for me. And I hope that they actually do go back and restructure some of these things, because I know several people who also like a lot of these aspects and tropes and different highlighted lore points, especially with that shadow. That was really cool. I love that concept. So yeah, good luck to you there, Ryan. You definitely have some great stuff here going on, and I can't wait to see what else you come up with in the future. And hey, who knows? Maybe if this does get restructured, I will reread it and try for the second one. Alright, that's it. Got a few more on my list for the Indie Sci-Fi Fantasy Author Battle, and I have a few other books I want to read this month. The next Shackle book is coming out too, so there's going to be quite a few more reviews. Until then.